Welcome mga kakusina! It's another year. Happy 2021 from the Kusinera At Its Finest. And to start 2021, I am sharing my very special recipe. This is my own stewed beef short ribs in oyster sauce. Now for the ingredients of this recipe, I am using 1 kilo of beef short ribs. This is actually Korean galbi mga kakusina, so boneless po ito. But if you want to use the beef short ribs na bone-in, okay lang po yon. I just prefer this cut because it has very nice layers of fat within the meat itself, and yung taba ng beef na yan ang makakapag-add ng flavor sa ating stewed beef short ribs in oyster sauce. So I season the beef with 1 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper and 1 teaspoon of salt. Ginawa ko po ito because when I start searing our beef, gusto ko po meron na po siyang lasa kahit kaunti. Now when I say sear, this is technically locking in the flavors of the beef inside by cooking it in a small amount of oil on a very high heat. Now, when we sear, hindi po pwedeng sabay-sabay na ihulog yung beef sa ating pan. We do it in batches. In that way, we can achieve this golden crusty color ng ating beef. Now, how would you know if the beef, yung side na nakadikit sa pan, is already golden and crusty? Now, when you start putting in your beef in that hot oil, don't move it around. Wait for 1 to 2 minutes before you actually flip to the other side. Now, I would recommend really, if you don't have a timer, you can just count 1 to 60. Basta high heat po yung ating pan, you would really achieve that golden crusty color na dinidescribe ko sa inyo, and the same thing as what you're seeing on your screen right now. So after searing our beef in batches, we're gonna place it all back in our pan. And at this point, we can start adding the rest of our ingredients. I am using 1/4 cup of premium oyster sauce. I recommend this brand to use if you want to take note of it. This is the only brand that I use of oyster sauce, by the way. If you prefer to use another brand, okay lang po yon. I just cannot tell you if it's exactly 1/4 cup ang gagamitin nyo kung ibang brand. I'm also adding water to our beef. It's because we're gonna boil it until it is tender. And we're gonna boil this slowly in low heat. Kaya kailangan po natin dagdagan ng tubig. We will also be using 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce. If it's not available, that's alright. You can replace it with the juice of 3 pieces of calamansi. Now, gusto kong ipakilala sa inyo si Happy, mga kakusina. And nakita nyo naman, naka-smiley face siya kasi gusto niya talagang sumarap ang inyong mga lutuin. Now, this is actually MSG. Although hindi naman talaga ako gumagamit ng MSG in the past, pero nahawa ako ni Nigel Nahawa ako sa kanya kakapanood ng mga videos niya. Kung hindi nyo kilala si Nigel mga kakusina, you can search his very famous review of the egg fried rice. Siya po yun. And siya ang nakapagpahawa sa akin gumamit ng MSG. So, 3 taktak lang guys, hindi po kailangang marami. This is just to bring out that umami taste na hinahanap-hanap natin. Maglalagay din po ako ng 1 teaspoon of chili oil para po merong kick yung ating stewed beef short ribs in oyster sauce. Now we're gonna cover this and we're gonna cook the beef in the lowest heat setting. Now slow cooking is still the best method of cooking that I will recommend to make this stew. And I did add half a cup of water at a time kung nakikita ko pong natutuyuan na yung ating beef. We want this sauce to be thickened, okay? Kung gusto nyo pong i-test kung malambot na po yung beef ninyo, you can use a fork like what I am doing right now. Kung hindi na po lumalaban yung karne, wala po kayong much effort na tusukin yung karne, luto na po ang inyong beef. Now in this recipe, the stew has to have sauce. Hindi po natin kailangang tuyuin siya. This is not gonna be a dry dish. We want that juicy and flavorful sauce to actually coat our beef. And in the last few minutes of cooking, I added 2 large sliced red onions. Kung gusto nyo po ng white onions, okay lang po yon. Kung gusto po ninyong kontian yung onions, okay lang po yon. Kung hindi po kayo mahilig sa sibuyas. And it's really up to you how you want to cook your onions. Kung gusto nyo po ng well done, translucent, okay lang po yon. But I prefer halfway cooked. It's because I want that color popping up when I serve the dish. And lastly, I added 6 pieces of sliced long green chilies or siling haba. I had to take out the seeds, mga kakusina, because ayaw po natin ng sobrang anghang, okay? We already added chili oil earlier, and that's another layer of flavor. And with the long green chilies, it's gonna be another layer of flavor added to this dish. I don't want it to be overpowered by anghang. I still want the beef and the oyster sauce flavor to stand out on this dish. But if you want to add labuyo, if you want to use labuyo or use bell peppers, green or red, it's really up to you. It really depends on your preference. But if you want to try the long green chilies, I recommend that you do this. Take out the seeds to have a moderate anghang on the recipe. So this is it, mga kakusina. I hope you like the very first recipe here on my cooking channel, the Kusinera At Its Finest. And thank you again for supporting this cooking channel. See you again on the next recipe. Bye now!